Anosognosia. Anosognosia is exactly what I think he had. I believe that my son, Chris, over the course of repeated breakdowns, lost his capacity to understand his illness. So he went off his meds, and that's when we lost him for good. He never took meds again. He ultimately chose to take his life rather than take medication.
People with anosognosia have a real neurological condition caused by damage to the brain, most likely in the frontal and parietal lobes. Because of this condition, they can't recognize that they are sick. Anosognosia is associated with a lot of diseases. Some people with strokes, brain tumors, Alzheimer's disease, and Huntington's disease suffer from this same lack of insight. And it's very clear that about half the people with schizophrenia and roughly 40% of the people with bipolar disorder have some degree of anosognosia. In other words, they don't recognize their own illness. And we recognize this for Alzheimer's disease, but we seem to have trouble recognizing that this is also common for people with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Russell Weston is one tragic example. Mr. Weston came to Washington, D.C. to, quote, save the world from cannibals, and killed 2 Capitol police officers while in this delusional state.
When the cannibals, I have control of the Ruby satellite system, and they are being criminally prosecuted for murder and cannibalism, then they say, well, the Ruby time reverse system means that they are not permanently dead, so they cannot be criminally prosecuted for murder.
But how about how about you being prosecuted and having control of the time sweep?
Well, that's like
Could you
saying,
just make them come alive by your choice?
Yes, I can do that, yes.
But you wouldn't?
I usually do not know.
Weston was not taking medication because he did not believe he was sick.
If theoretically A.J. and Barry did recommend an insanity defense, would you go along with it?
No.
Why not?
That is not advantageous to my position.
Okay. First of all, do you perceive yourself as being mentally ill?
No.
All right. Is that the primary reason that you'd reject an insanity defense?
That is correct, yes.
Bexar County Judge Polly Jackson Spencer developed the first of its kind outpatient commitment program in Texas. She saw the devastation caused when the severely mentally ill are too sick to seek treatment and end up trapped in a revolving door of incarceration, homelessness, hospitalization, and victimization.
You can't simply tell someone who has a mental illness and is disorganized in their thinking, hey, you've got a doctor's appointment in 3 weeks and it's, 10 miles from here. These are the different buses you need to take to get there, and don't forget to go, and assume that they're going to make that. That's just not going to happen.
Judge Oscar Kazin supervises the day-to-day operations of Bexar County's court-ordered outpatient treatment program. He meets regularly with patients, psychiatrists, and staff.
When I sit in that little courtroom down in the basement of that abandoned hospital at the San Antonio State Hospital, the guy who sits at the end of the chair, that mentally ill patient, didn't have a choice. He didn't wake up one morning and say, I want to lose my life. I want to lose my sanity. These people had no choice in the matter. And it's our responsibility to bring them back to sanity. They didn't choose it.
It's very important to understand that anosognosia is the #1 reason why people fail to seek treatment. It's up to the rest of us to make sure that they are able to get treatment.